All right, guys, we're back. This is the eighth episode. I've got Jada Thoele, who is, she's a partner in the Muds team and over in Houston. I believe she's probably the unofficial SubTo mascot. She's our little ray of sunshine. Um, she's 23, moved from LA to Houston, and she's doing some big things. So, Jada, why don't you kind of kick us off? Tell us, like, kind of, I guess, what got you into real estate, what got you into SubTo, and how you got here.
Yeah, well, thank you. A couple of things that I will just correct just so that it's um clear. My last name is Thoele. I just turned 24 and I'm actually from LA. I moved to Houston for a few months and then I'm back in LA. But it's been great.
Gotcha.
As far as like what got me into real estate, so most of my family is actually in real estate already. Not necessarily like realtors or real estate agents or anything like that, but my aunts, a lot of my aunts are actually they have a lot of rental properties in the area that I'm in. So I'm in East Los Angeles. And so I'd never really realized that growing up. And I just say that like it'll tie into what I'm gonna say a little later. But when I was, I think around 5, my mom had bought a condo and we ended up living in it and then we moved out and so she would rent it out. So it's kind of like around all around me. I had a lot of people that were in real estate, but it never interested me at all. So I never put any kind of time or attention into it. And so back in 2021, I was actually going to school here at Cal State LA or California State University of Los Angeles. And we had just gotten back in person from all of the lockdowns because of COVID. And it was really not fun being back. I felt like throughout the whole almost year that we were locked down, I didn't learn anything. And I didn't really put the energy and the effort to teach or like reteach myself what we were going through. So I was really unmotivated to do anything there. And there was like a bunch of like weird politics going around, and it was just not what it was and what I had grown accustomed to, at least what school had been, because it had been such a big part of my life and like what I liked to go to. It was almost my second home growing up. So the fact that it didn't feel like that anymore, I starting to get really disconnected. And at the same time, around that time too, I was getting really into like social media, not like posting anything, but kind of just scrolling a lot. And I'm very sure that I had stumbled upon a few people that were like, I'm 18 or I'm 20, I'm something, something, something. And I bought a rental property. And so I started thinking about that and I started thinking, oh, well, that sounds, really cool. And I'm pretty sure I could do it. If my aunts could do it, I think they're like first generation in the US. So I'm like, well, if they could do it, I could do it. So I started looking it up or looking up like how to start in real estate. And then like on YouTube and I start getting more videos on like, well, how to start an LLC, you want anonymity, and then all of these things. And so around that time, I would park off campus and ride a scooter to my class and they kind of listen to everything on my earbuds. And after a while, I was getting more and more intrigued with what I was learning. And then I had stumbled upon one of the real estate attorneys that I was listening to. He had a podcast, and then he ended up having Pace on his podcast. And that was the thing that changed everything. So obviously, like when Pace talks about like SubTo or no money out of my pocket and all these things, it's really interesting. But the thing that really hit the nail on the head for me was when he said that he can help people get out of foreclosure, because at that time what I was thinking of when I was thinking of like getting into real estate, I started thinking, well, okay, I'm 21, I know I have a good work ethic, so if I wanted to like work and save up and buy a house, I could do it. But what's the cheapest way to buy a house? And I started thinking about like probably auctions. But then I was like racked with guilt because I started thinking about like, oh, well, what if there was a family and maybe they had kids, and creating this whole like imaginary family. I don't know anybody who was foreclosed upon, but I started thinking about that and I was like, oh man, what if I'm taking away their home? So it was really difficult for me. So as soon as Pace had said that, he said I help people get out of foreclosure, I was sold. I pretty much signed up for SubTo that week, and that's how it started.
That's beautiful, because that's kinda how I found SubTo too, was I was listening to Dan Fleischman's podcast, The Money Mondays,
Yeah.
and Pace came on there, like, twice, and as everybody that joins SubTo, like, now knows, it's like, "Bro, once you start getting the ads, like, that is it. You get the ads for the next eternity."
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's funny.
I got the ads for the Gator method, and of course, at the time, those were 2 separate companies. Pace has since told all of us that he's combined them now, and or they'll be under the same umbrella, but I was getting all the ads from Gator on one side, and then all of a sudden, I attended the Gator webinar. It w I didn't sign up for whatever reason. Maybe it wasn't for me, maybe it was the money, I forget what it was. Started getting the sub 2 ads, responded to them, got on a strategy call. Next thing I know, I'm in sub 2 at the beginning of this year, and, like I said, talking to people like you, like, "Okay, well, what are you doing? How can I help? What do you have? What do you need?" Kind of what kind of bigger problems can we solve, you know?
Yeah, that's cool. He gets us, man. Like you're saying, it's the ads. Like his team's really good at like, okay, I'll say this. Actually, he's really good at it. Just like there's this one ad that keeps going around where he's like, "You want to know the best way to do a fix and flip? Don't do a fix and flip." And I'm like, damn, that would totally hook me in if I wasn't already in some too.
Well, and then what I think is kind of surreal, right, is like the ads that I was getting at the time were the ones with Kevin Cho and Wes Grant,
Mm,
and then you and I were both in Orlando not very long ago. And if you haven't met them before, like, guess what? That's your chance. You got to meet them there.
yeah, that's
So
funny. Oh my
it's
gosh,
both
yeah.
it's both kind of funny, and it feels a little bit full circle sometimes because like you're saying, right? Like you found Pace because of a podcast. Now you host a podcast.
Yeah, because of Pace.
Yeah. Also because of Pace, because he encourages you, which I think is probably the most beautiful part about Sub 2 is like everyone in there is just constantly encouraging you. Whatever your dream is, whatever your vision is, they're encouraging you to go out and push it.
Yeah. Ugh, I love SubTo. I it has been such an interesting aspect of my life, like going into it. It definitely wasn't what I was expecting because when I came into this, I was thinking, oh, it's a mentorship. Okay, mentorship. Like I'm gonna get mentored or I'm gonna have a coach or something. Definitely didn't happen. Like I did not have like a single person. I was like, okay, do this, or like you want to do this, or whatever it was. But like Pace says, he's like, this isn't a mentorship, this is a community. And man, oh man, like it wasn't just the aspect that you're talking about, like there's just so much. It wasn't just real estate, or it wasn't just like, real estate and real estate investors that are really nice and like encouraging people or like helping people out a lot. Like there's also that personal development aspect that I was not expecting at all. Like I didn't realize how not into personal development I was until now. I definitely, I mean, my parents and I are very big on like you should always try to better yourself, and that's kind of like one of the goals in life. You want to become a better version of yourself as you grow and as you age. And I was definitely like, yeah, okay, that's obvious, but like because I'm in SubTo, because of all the people that I'm around, they always special like this is what I learned from Tony Robbins or Jim Quick or Alex Ramosi or like all these other like huge people that are just have wonderful mindsets or a lot of different kind of mindsets, like whether it be again personal development or business or all of that. And that was like huge. I've been so motivated the past couple years to just like grow as much as I can. And then Cody ended up saying like what that your revenue is never going to surpass your personal growth. And I was like, oh my God, that's even more. So that was like the biggest thing that I am so grateful for having joined the community. Like just the personal development aspect alone has changed my life so much.
Yeah, I can definitely feel you there. Like I was telling you this before in the side chat when you and I connected a long time, like a few months ago. But I came from the business world. I had started my first LLC at 19. Then I think I went 1099 for a few years, where I did like personal training and I did pedicab operations, and I actually bought a business at one point too. Um, and I joined the business coaching groups at 26, and those were totally different. That was my first introduction to personal development, so I thought this was gonna be similar to that, but I found that Sub 2 was that and so much more. It was so
Yep.
much, because like you said, it's a real estate group, but everyone is so nice, and it's not just about wholesaling, right? Like, I think that's the misconception. Everybody's like, "Okay, well, so you're a wholesaler." It's like, "No." Trying to explain to people outside of Sub 2 what I do in Sub 2 is, like, rather complex, and they have no idea,
Yeah. It's funny.
especially all
Oh, go
creative.
on. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's the thing that like blows their minds. I had caught up with a friend from high school, I want to say January or maybe last year, and she's just getting into real estate and she's a real estate agent, and I was telling her about Sub 2 and about what I do, and she was totally not understanding it at all. She's like, "So what firm are you with?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not with a firm. I joined a community, like I joined a mentorship, and so I do this." And she's like, "So they're your brokers? Like that's your brokerage?" And I'm like, "No." It was just so funny.
Yeah, even trying to explain to my mom was like like, watching her you can watch the wheels turn, like, she's trying to wrap her head around it, and she's not quite getting it. Because, like I told you initially was I didn't even join Sub 2 for real estate. I joined because of 0 down.
Hmm.
And when I joined, you still had to do the homework to get access to 0 down. So I was like, "Well, this is a bummer." Like,
Yeah.
but I was like, "How hard can it be to make 50 friends?" So I just went out there and made 50 friends, went to a meetup that happened, like, within my 3rd week of being in, and all of a sudden I had 60 or 70 friends. And it
Yeah.
just keeps going, 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 right? You just keep meeting more and more people, and you find out, like, what they have, what they need, and how you can help them, and that's just what we do now. It's like, whatever it is, whatever problem you bring to me, I'm gonna try to solve.
Hmm. Yeah.
'Cause it sounds like you kinda do something similar with what you have going on, with your partners and your team that considering how many people y'all have, um, I know you were saying right before we started the recording that you're getting a little bit more niche down, but, up to this point, sounds like, you were like, "Well, whatever problems I can solve, I will solve."
Yeah. For the most part. And that's really what I like um to do. I like to help people. Have you taken the Clifton Strengths test?
I have not taken Clifton. I've taken all the other ones. I've
That
taken,
one's good.
DISC. I've taken the Rocket Fuel
Mhm.
and the 16 personalities.
Yeah, the Myers-Briggs. Yeah. The Clifton Strengths is like the best. I or not the best one out of all, but like I love it so much. Because it's not just, I mean, it is kind of personality, but it's more of like just going, what are your strengths based off of whatever the assessment is, instead of like, oh well, this is your personality, you're more geared towards blah blah blah. And it's, I've taken a bunch of those too, and they've definitely helped. Like Jordan Peterson's personality test helped me see like, okay, I'm more on like the 78th percentile of like agreeableness, and if I want to balance it out, this is how I can do it and stuff. But with the strengths test, what's great about that is that that's geared more towards like companies that actually have employees and have people that are like managers and leaders, so that they can understand better how to just how to maximize and utilize their own strengths. So it's like, why shore up your weaknesses when you can just find people that are complementary to you, so you can just be the best you that you can be. And that has been amazing. Oh man, you're, oh yeah, that, there we go. I was talking about that because you're kind of mentioned like, I try to connect people or like see what their problems are, and that's actually in my top 5. So one of them, I think, is like my number 4. It's called restorative, and if you look into it, it's about I really enjoy looking at problems and seeing how I can solve them, and that is very very apparent. I hope I don't come off as like a know-it-all to people. I know I did growing up, even though like I wasn't, I knew I wasn't, but I
Mhm.
think it's just, it's that, like, that's my strength. When I see people and I see a problem, I'm like, we'll just do this and it would fix it. Or, oh, you're not understanding this problem, let me help you, it's because of this, so this is how you can fix it. So yeah, I think that's something that really pushes me to talk to more people nowadays, and sometimes it's overwhelming, and sometimes like, like I'm pretty sure you too. Like we just talk to so many people. Like it's a part of our role essentially. But
For
w-
204 months.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, at least, what helps me kind of get through it and like perspective shift to help a lot too is like I'm still trying to flesh out how I want to say this, but I see kind of my mission as giving opportunities to allow everyday people to build wealth through real estate. So that's what I imagine. And like I imagine, okay, this person, whether I feel like, maybe we can help each other now or not, that doesn't matter. It's okay. But at least maybe I can help them, or, at least maybe I can connect them, or vice versa. Maybe they can help me. But like more than anything, I want to be of service to people.
So let me ask you this then, because I'm sure you probably found your avatar before you found Clifton's strengths, but do you see the clear connection between the two now?
Um, I actually didn't do my avatar too much. So, like, when people say that, are you talking about like a visionary and integrator, or are you talking about the like connector or unicorn agent, like that kind of avatar?
Yeah, well, just in general, right? Like a lot of people, they usually do identify by two, is what we found, right? Like you and I were both at Squad Up Summit. We both had like at least 4 or 5 things on our
Yeah.
lanyard. And so clearly you're never just primarily two, but I would say that a lot of people tend to act in those roles like day to day.
Mhm.
Right, like, I do tend to play the connector role because I do not so much because I'm here to monetize off of making connections, but it's because I enjoy, like you said, people bring me problems, and I'm playing, like, air traffic control, right? Like, I'm sending people here, there, everywhere. Um, if they wanna join a team in Houston, I know I send them to Jada.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that definitely plays into it. Like the roles that I would say I have now is like definitely a connector, um, a wholesaler, but that goes into like a bunch of other stuff. But it's still like, anyways, to try to like connect it with the problem solving, like with the wholesale, I'm helping. I'm not necessarily making the calls, but I manage the people who do. And so a lot of the people they need management, or they need feedback so that they know how to get better. So I give them that. We listen to their recordings, and I'm like, okay, well, these are the things that were probably hindering you from making this lead a lead. So this is what you can do. I Another role is like a lender. So like if people need help with double closes, that's something that I can definitely um help with, and trying to think what else. And now it's like I have enough experience with a couple of these different areas, like Airbnb or Airbnb arbitrage as well. Like that's what I first really started on too. So if anybody ever has questions, people still remember me doing that until they send them to me. So that I'm like, okay, well, here's what I know. Here's how I can help. And then they start coming to me and they're like, hey, can you help me come with this property? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, not just am I going to help you, but here are a couple videos that I knew that helped me, and I send it to them immediately.
So I like what you were talking about on the wholesale side, especially because what I find is that sometimes in SubTo, the vision of what's a visionary and what's an integrator is somewhat limited, right? Like
Mhm.
they almost look at the integrator like that's just a systems admin or it's an office manager or it's whatever. But similar to TCs, visionaries, integrators, they're all pretty much the same insofar as there's several different flavors
Yeah.
of each, and I'm kind of that way too. Like I like to play the COO, the kind of ops manager version of an integrator. Like don't come to me to build a CRM. However, like you said, I enjoy the coaching the people one on one. Like, hey, look, these are your KPIs. This is what you need to hit. This is how I feel like I can help you get better.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, and then I just realized, so I mentioned that like I'm a lender as well with the, or I help people with the double closes. To connect that with what like the whole problem solving, or at least with my mission as well, I know a lot of people who are like just getting into real estate, and wholesaling is the thing that really is kind of the easiest way for a lot of people to get in, because a lot of people don't necessarily need to use their own money. Maybe they call a bunch of agents, or they like just are really good with driving for dollars, but for whatever reason, maybe they weren't good with telling the seller like, oh, I have a buyer for this, or they knew the seller would have liked that, or if maybe they the seller's fine with them having a buyer, but they don't want the buyer to like know their assignment fee or whatever it may be. That also helps. At least I feel like it helps with my mission statement because it's like, they're trying to get into the space, or like they can do it. Like they're so close, but they need something, like they need the cash. And for essentially that transactional lending, they're like, I just need this one thing, and then I will like get my first deal, or then I'll like, be able to close these deals. And so that's where the double closing, the transactional lending comes in. That makes me even happier because I'm like, oh my god, I'm able to help these people. Like I'm able to help people not only get better on the phones, but then also help people actually close deals, and it's very rewarding.
It kind of sets you up as the linchpin of a team, right? Like you said, like they couldn't do it without, whether it's that internal coach on the wholesale team or it's that transactional lend for an outside team. So I think that's really cool too. Seth Godin has a really good book on being a linchpin, and like just it's basically acquiring the skill sets that make you as valuable as possible.
Oh my god, that's awesome. What's the book called?
Linchpin.
Lunch Fit. Okay.
Yeah, he has a lot of really good books. Like Purple Cow's a really good one. Um, he's probably one of the best marketers that nobody knows who knows his name, you know.
Yeah.
He's been behind all the big brands, but he's not the face of the big brands. He just does all the marketing for them, and that's one of the things that he talks about is like having that unique selling proposition, you know, being and having a mission statement, which it sounds like you have, and you have pretty fleshed out, as well as probably some core values I imagine you operate by.
Yeah. Huh.
What are those if people are curious?
So I think, okay, well, I'm trying to flesh them out a little bit more. And it's definitely something that I've been working on for a while. So at least with me, like three basic core values are honesty, integrity, and helpfulness. Um, I growing up, my dad was very big on being honest and being transparent. And it makes sense for me. Like you can't necessarily have a community or have a thriving community or relationship or anything without honesty. Because if you just distrust people, then nothing's really gonna go well. So I want people to make sure that they know that I'm honest and I'm trustworthy, and that I'm expecting that from you as well if we're to associate. And I act with as much integrity as I can. There's definitely been times where I partner with people, and a project may not go as you would hope it goes, and it doesn't go as planned. And a lot of people, the the tricks of the trade are like you're gonna lose money, but then you're gonna make money too. But during the times that you lose money, like that's I think very character building and stuff. But it also shows you like, okay, like what kind of person are you gonna be during these times? And I was always trying to be as optimistic and as I could, but also like work with integrity. So like it would be hard to have these conversations, but I would have them with these people like, hey, X, Y, and Z happened. I know that we're projected to make this much. It looks like it's this, or maybe it looks like we're gonna have to pay for this month or pay for whatever. And it was always uncomfortable, but at I'm glad that at least I did that. And that at least whatever I do, I know that it's always coming from uh a good heart, and not necessarily to do things to make it a win for me, but to make it a win for like everybody. And then helpfulness just kind of goes into like what we were talking about anyways. Like it fuels me to be helpful to people and to be able to help them.
I love that because I've started to build my teams, my JV partnerships, the things that I'm doing around my core values too. And those are, to communicate proactively and effectively,
Mm.
to to value everybody and their time, and to always act and speak with integrity, right?
Yep.
And a lot of times those can be a little bit vague because they cover a lot of things. Like the integrity part I got from the four agreements, right? Because be impeccable with your word. A lot of those things they play into each other,
Yep.
which is awesome. And it sounds like you did the same thing. You kind of created the umbrella that you want to operate underneath. And if you don't fit under the umbrella, that's okay, but go do that over there. Like, just
Yeah.
don't do that with me.
That's so cool that you bring up the four agreements. Oh my gosh. I have read that book close to 20 times, not necessarily by choice, but it has helped me so much in the way that I behave and the way that I like act in life now. So that's like so cool that you know it.
Well, it goes along, right? Like we were saying earlier with personal development, when I joined the business groups, that was one of the first things that they recommended you start reading was like As a Man Thinketh,
Mhm.
The Four Agreements. I read Relentless and later Winning when he released that. Um, because I think you and I come from similar places, we just have different ways of addressing it. And that
Mhm.
I love that about you because you remind me of, one of my JV partners, Grady. Like Grady is take no shit. However, Grady's very, very nice about take no shit. And
Yeah.
you saw that at Squad Up Summit when me and Logan were conversing because Logan and I both follow Andy Frisella really closely. Like I've done 75 hard personally. He's in the middle of the Live Hard program. I think he's on phase 2.
Yeah.
And we come from that space where it's a little bit more of like the football coach, right? That grab you by the face mask, like kind of shake you a little bit, but sometimes that's what people need.
Mhm.
But I love that you have like the nicest way of letting people down. You're like, no, I just don't think I'm interested in that.
I do my best. I'm very like I kind of I forget if I'm on the 78th percentile or whatever, but I'm very agreeable. And even in like my top strengths, like they're all like positivity and harmony, and I like to have harmony with people. And so when I have to say no, it can be really difficult. Or like if I have to like leave a conversation, or I'm like, okay, like I just don't want to have this anymore. Like I don't want to be doing whatever anymore. I try to think of alternative ways so that I make sure that like nobody gets offended, or like there's as little chance of them getting offended as possible. So I'm like, all right, well, it's great catching up with you. I actually have to run to like do whatever. Ah, it's something I practice.
Well, I think it's funny because I tend to be on the more agreeable side too. But what I tell people is like I'm a recovering people pleaser. So when I feel like you're
Uh,
wasting time, it's like nails on the chalkboard in my head. I'm just like, oh no, 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 we're not today.
oh my god, you're wasting my time. So just so know know that in advance. I'm gonna go now.
Well, and I tend to be more brash when it comes to that. Like we had I had a connection call with somebody from the creative group, not from SubTo, but from the free creative finance with Pace Morby group. And he kept asking me about wholesaling. And I've told him beforehand, I was like, bro, I'm not a wholesaler. I said, I can
Mhm.
connect you with probably a dozen. I said, but I don't personally wholesale. Well, why not? Why don't you wholesale? What do you want to know? And I was like, bro, if you say this one more fucking time, I will hang up this phone right now.
Oh my god.
And all of a sudden it got real quiet. And he was like, okay, cool, I got you. Right? But it's like sometimes you have to set the boundary. And again, you have your own way of setting boundaries. I have mine. But just because I say that or just because I act out from time to time doesn't mean that I'm mad or whatever. Like if I'd rather you correct the behavior over saying sorry, and then guess what? We can go right back to being cool. We're
Mhm.
right back at it. Like we can have a beer, we can cheers, we can do whatever. Like
That's such a guy thing. I feel like that's such a guy thing. My dad, growing up, he would try to teach me sports things, like how to throw a ball, or like how to throw the frisbee, or juggle a soccer ball, or like whatever it was. And I, I'm just not athletically inclined, and I haven't really practiced it enough to be. So a lot of times it would be like it would be hours of us trying to do something, and he would go into like coach mode because he used to be a soccer coach, and he said like he grew up doing these things, and he's a guy. I feel like it's a very guy thing where it's just like, okay, coach mode, no, you're not doing that, like blah blah blah. And I grew up like I lived with my mom, so she's not coach mode, and so it was really difficult to do the switch whenever him and I would hang out.
well, I think it depends on the background that your dad has too, right? Because there's guys that are from corporate, and so they have
Mhm.
a little bit more of that toned down speech, but like the world that I come from, which is more of the blue collar side where we're running like chainsaws and heavy equipment and big trucks, like we scream and curse at each other all day long because I need to get your attention. Like if I don't get your attention, you could seriously get hurt.
Yeah.
However, like I said, at the end of the day, we all have that mutual underlying understanding that like it's not personal. Don't
Mhm.
take it personal. If you do, that's your problem, not mine.
Rule number what? Rule number 3 or agreement number 3, don't take anything personally.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you remember them because I remember I sometimes I have a difficult time remembering 2 and 3, but I think the most important thing that most people forget is that all of them flow down from 1.
Mhm.
So if you do 1, for the most part, you're doing 2, 3, 4, and I would argue probably possibly even 5.
Mhm. Yeah, and I only remember the kind of the tier of them. Just like I used to not know it at all, but I had read the book. I actually, like I mentioned, I read it like so many times, and it was because so I work with my mom a lot, and she has a nonprofit over here in East LA. It's called In the Making, and we're very focused on guiding the youth in the community. Like that's essentially what we are now. We're like a youth community resource center or like a youth guiding center. And whenever we work with um, agencies that work with the county or the city or and whatever to provide youth employment. So they provide the youth employment, they pay the youth, but we're the job training center. And so they come here. So we get like new cohorts every couple months. And the like the main thing that, or at least their, what's it called? Their onboarding is essentially being a part of or reading this book. Like we have a small book club, but it's only one time whenever they join. And it's so that they know if anything ever happens here, we're all going to try to speak the same language. Or so, because we've had so many times where my mom will tell this one person what to do. She's like, hey, can you do this task for me? And then the person's like, yeah. And they kind of take it upon themselves to be a little more proactive than we would have preferred. And then they do the task, but then they do it a little differently than we asked them to. And we're like, okay, don't assume that you can do or like take the liberty to do things your way. Like we ask for a specific way because of this. And then as we're telling these people this, we're also reminding them like, you know, that's where, you know, we also messed up where we should have been more impeccable with saying like, hey, do this in this order because of this. And also, as I'm telling you this, like, please don't take it personally because we're just trying to make you into the best version of yourself. Like, if you do what we're telling you to do, like, if you start acting in these ways and like showing these behaviors as you go into different jobs, people are going to notice it. And like, you're going to get like hired and or noticed or like get raises and stuff. Like, you're going to get better.
What I had to start telling people to soften the landing is like, look, I'm giving you some free game because I can be very direct. But again, it's not because I'm here to tell you like you're a fuck up. That's not the goal. The goal is to tell you like, look, this is how I think you can be better. And well, I had to have that conversation with somebody that ended up being at Squad Up Summit right before Squad Up Summit. I was like, hey, look, I'm just letting you know when you sent me a message worded like this, it came off like this, and therefore I interpreted it as such.
uh,
And he was like, "Oh, well, I don't know if I'm really all this good at this. I think I'm going to switch avatars soon." I was like, "All right, well, hold on, hold on, hold on. Like, I'm not telling you to quit. I'm
mhm.
not telling you to change your lifestyle. I'm not telling you to change your approach. I'm just telling you to communicate a little bit better and a little bit more effectively. Because if you do that, like, that's how I got all these connections that I got that you guys want. You know,
That's
that's how I
perfect.
got to 200 and some odd people in the four months."
That's amazing. I love that. I love how you're like, hold on. Like, not necessarily like, yeah, that's probably good. But you're like, hold on. There's a chance to improve. This is how you might be able to start.
Yeah, because you gotta remember, like, I make posts every day. I get messages every single day, like, "Hey, let's connect. Let's do this. Let's do that." Somebody sent me a message yesterday, like, "Hi," and I was like, "This is completely unclear. I have no idea who you are, what you want, or how I
Yeah.
could even help you. How
Yep.
does that solve anybody's problems, mine nor yours? So like, let's work on this.
Hmm.
You know, if your networking message to me feels like a pitch, I'm gonna tell you it feels like a pitch.
Hmm. That's funny. Yeah, that's where it's like I don't necessarily it's interesting to word this because I don't want to say like don't waste my time, but I think that's it, but not in the sense of like, oh, I feel like, I've gotten to a certain level, like, ooh, like if you haven't done this much, you're wasting my time if you reach out to me. It's nothing like that, but it's more of in the sense of like, hey, we're all business owners and our time is valuable because we're working on so many things and we have like something to do every second of the day if we really wanted to. So if you're going to be like reaching out to me, I want to know immediately why. So like put it in there. Like, are you looking to join my team or are you looking to get connected with somebody or like what are you looking for? Because I want to be able to help. And then also, it's also good to tell people like, okay, well, maybe do some research as well on who you're reaching out to so that not only can you say like what you need or what you're looking for, but also like, hey, I also noticed Jada that you're, missing this and this and this like on your social media or like I also noticed that you can probably enhance your, your offer by doing X, Y, and Z. So I also wanted to see if maybe I can help with that. So it's like a give and take.
Yeah, well, I think it comes down to just leading with value, and not enough people do that. And I'm always trying to tell people how to lead with value. And so I think what you just said is like a value equation they can kind of do in their head, right? Like if I'm just reaching out to Jada and my message to Jada is hi, that's not sufficient. However, if like we said, if I said, "Hey Jada, I'm really looking to get into multifamily. I know that you work with a lot of people. I know you're not as involved in multifamily anymore, but do you mind connecting me with people on that side of things?" That's far more clear because, like you said, like I already don't have the bandwidth to do the amount of things I have to do on a daily basis. Like I could work 36 hours a day if if we had that many hours in a day, A, and B, if we had the attention spans to do it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Between
Yeah.
I've got three different teams that I'm helping start in a small business outside of real estate.
Oh, how how do you do all of this?
Simple answer is I live and die by the calendar, and I set and manage expectations really well. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of comes back to those boundaries, right? Like if Jada wants to call me just to catch up, that's totally cool. If I can take the call, I'll take the call. If I can't take the call, I'll either answer you right away and I'll say, "Hey Jada, can I call you back in 30?" Or I'll text you, "Hey, I can't talk, but I can text, like, what's up?"
Yeah.
Um, so it's to me, it's setting and managing expectations with other people, which also involves you keeping the promises to yourself. And those two things go hand in hand. So the way I see it is like I want everyone to feel seen, valued, and heard.
Mm.
So sometimes I will stay up late and lay in bed still like messaging people at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning
Ugh.
because I don't want you to feel like I ignored you or I totally just like left you on red or whatever. And regardless of what channel that is, whether it's on Messenger, whether it's the Facebook notifications, Instagram, text messages, I make sure all that's cleared out before I go to bed.
Dang, that's commitment.
Right, but I have to be like ruthless with my own time as a result of that. Like if again, if you call me and I feel like it's starting whether the conversation stays on point or not, if I have a meeting right after it, which is what I usually prefer because it allows me to set hard deadlines, which means we communicate with urgency and we get on task and we get everything done in that time. So if Jada calls me for our allotted time and I actually do have a hard stop, I'm like, "Hey Jada, I got to call Dawn here at the top of the hour, so let's get to it."
Hmm. Dang, that's good. Yeah. I actually started kind of doing that when it came to like connection calls with people. So, um, because of like so many people that I reach out to, it's like, okay, I can only do 15 minutes at a time. And then if it's a 15-minute, but I know that I don't have anything afterwards, then it's like, okay, if this is a good conversation, then I'm cool with like, you know, lengthening it out. But I'm glad that I started doing that not only for my own time, but because I started making my mom do that. Because she loves to talk, but she also doesn't know how to get out of conversations, even when she's extremely busy. And so now I tell my mom, like, hey, just tell them you have a hard stop. Like, if they call you and you're like, yeah, I have like set X amount of minutes that you have to talk. Like, hey, yeah, I have 5 minutes, or I have 10 minutes, or I have 15. Like, what's up? And get to the point and just use that. And then say, like, once it's getting to that point, you're like, hey man, well, I hate to cut you off, but I actually, like I said, I had 15 minutes to go, or I had 15 minutes to talk, and it's kind of up right now. So I would love to catch up later, like stuff like that.
Yep. You want to hear something that'll blow your mind?
Yes.
All those 200 people have gotten at least one 30-minute phone call.
God.
Just one.
Ah,
But at the end of the day too, what I found, and maybe this will help you and your mom too, is like I only try to help people that are willing to help themselves.
mm,
So the people that are willing to hold themselves accountable and the people that respond to me quickly are the squeaky wheels that get the grease, right? Like
yeah,
there was one or two people that were like, "Oh, I would love an accountability partner. I'd love a mindset coach." Well, if I text you like twice and you don't respond, or if I call you and you don't answer, like I'm not doing that shit anymore.
yeah,
I'm not going out of my way because why would I sacrifice my time to chase you down to make sure you achieve your goals, your dreams, your visions when you don't have the capacity, or maybe you do and maybe you're just flat out ignoring me, and then at that point you're disrespecting my time, so it goes against the core value, right? Like
yeah,
it's very easy, like swipe left, cool, disqualified, done.
yeah. That's kind of how I see it when I'm interviewing people to like join our team as well. So, um, we have like a couple different what's it called? Like phases, I guess, to on or like interview people. And so a lot of time after the first phase, it's like the connection phase. And like, oh yeah, I'm looking to join a team. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like I can't chat too much right now, but let's chat like more in depth and actually have a call scheduled for whatever. And I'll give them like a Calendly link or like a form to fill out. And then a lot of times they don't even fill out the form. So I'm like, okay, cool. And that's also why I have that call where like, okay, if we're like quickly connecting for the first time or whatever it may be, I don't know how serious you are. So chat with me a little longer later, and then we'll see if that actually happens.
Hey Jada, you want some other free games?
Okay.
You can build a form inside of Calendly, so
Oh, yeah, I know.
so they can't actually book the call until they fill out the form, which is what I do in Motion.
That's good. Yeah, that's a good idea.
It's only like 5 questions, like, it's not even a lot, but, again, like, if you're not willing to take the time to answer 5 questions, right? It's what's your phone number? Um, what because your email's already included.
Mhm.
So, what's your phone number? What do you have? What do you need? Are you a SubTo student? Do you wanna be notified when I go live?
Yeah.
Like, if you can't answer, and all of those are required. So if you can't answer those, I mean, dude, it doesn't take that long. It takes you longer to go through the process of loading all the pages than it does for you to answer the damn questions.
Yeah. Those are easy questions too.
Right. So it's a low barrier to entry, but you'd also be amazed at how many people still don't surpass the barrier to entry, even though it's extraordinarily low.
Mhm.
But again, that's one of the things I do to safeguard my time because like yesterday I probably got, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 message requests because I made 2 posts in the free group and all of them got the calendar link. And I've got 4 or 5 calls booked out of it.
Nice.
But that's 4 or 5 out of, like I said, probably 9, 10. It's a 50% attrition rate.
Dang. That's so interesting. Like, I wonder why are they reaching out if they're not necessarily going to act on whatever?
People want the path of least resistance, which includes the least amount of work. And so a lot of times I'll get people that reach out. Like one guy had commented on my post and he was like, "Hey, hit me up." And it's like, bro, there's a clear call to action here that says message me.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't follow basic instructions, like why are you doing this?
Yeah, that's funny. I feel bad for those where I don't I don't know. I kind of teeter totter between just not answering or just commenting back like, "Hey, message me," because I'm not gonna message you if you're if like in my post I say message me or in my post I'm like reach out to me.
Yeah, you're right. I teeter-totter on it too because I had one person do it yesterday, and I was like, "Nah, screw this. Delete." And then I had, like, 4 or 5 people that were like, "Hey, I'm interested, reach out to me." And I was like, "Okay, maybe if more than one person tells me, maybe I didn't communicate it clearly enough."
Yeah,
And so then at that point, what I'll do to save the time is I'll create one standardized message that I can copy and paste that's, like, 4 or 5 sentences long with the link included, type it out once, copy it, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, and then I'm done, and I'm
yeah,
out of the messages.
yeah. I love copy paste. It has helped me so many times. For instance, for Mother's Day, I'm like, "Hey, happy Mother's Day. I hope, you know, whatever, whatever, whatever." But I know that as I'm writing it, I mean it. So at least because I do still feel guilty where I'm like, "Oh, I'm sending it the same message to multiple people." But it had the scent of it, like as I was writing it, and like whoever I'm sending it to actually mean it. So it's fine.
Well, I think as long as it's written in your voice, right? You know, like, you're not just copying and pasting and it doesn't appear like it's a chat bot. I think it's far better because all you're really doing is you're trying to speak to multiple people in multiple different places at the same time.
Mhm.
So I think that's hugely beneficial to people. If you can kind of duplicate yourself like Pace was talking about on the digital clone side of things when we were at Squad Up Summit, you know, and sometimes copying and pasting messages is also kind of you being a digital clone.
Yeah. Yeah, I forget that you joined like this year. So last year and why I even started the podcast was because he was doing this thing called Project Forward, that he's like in and out of like everything that he does. But it was trying to tell people like how to build up their brand and build up their social media presence. And so a part of that, he's like you said, like make clones of yourself. So he was saying, you know, create a YouTube channel or create a podcast where you like actually give out all everything that you know. And so if people are reaching out to you, you just direct them to that first. And then if they have more, then you can like, okay, like let's chat now that you know, so that we don't have to necessarily waste time on a 30-minute call telling you about myself because you'll already have seen a video. So this 30-minute call could be more about like, let me learn about you and then let's see where we can collaborate. And one advice that he had given too was like on Calendly links to put a YouTube video there. So like make like a couple minute intro video of yourself and then put in the Calendly link and say, watch this before we meet. Otherwise, like I'm not gonna go over it. And that helped a lot. That saved a lot of time.
Oh, I bet. Well, because and like I said too, like creating a digital clone, I think most people think of it solely as that, as like being on video. But what I tell everybody, and I know you follow Hormozy closely, so Hormozy has this opinion that everything is branding. Like this is
Mhm,
branding, even if this was a one-on-one conversation between the two of us, right? If nobody else was here to hear it and we weren't recording it, it's still branding because you're gonna walk away with this with a perception of me.
mhm.
So I tell everybody it's like as long as you can show up and do things consistently, that's the most important thing. Like I post a lot, or to some people it seems like a lot, especially because the algorithm either really, really favors you or it doesn't.
Yeah,
So I
totally.
can make one post every other day, and some people will call me on the phone. They're like, "Dude, you like live on Facebook, don't you?" And I'm like, "No, I don't. You just engage with my shit a lot. So therefore you see everything I did a day ago, 3 days ago, 6 days ago, 9 days ago, like you see it
Yeah,
all."
that's true. That's funny. Yeah, and you're really good at being engaging with your posts. And I think you were telling me this before, like you're like, oh, it's or you've like done marketing kind of stuff, like you know,
Yeah, I
or
took
like
a
copyright stuff.
copywriting class, and that's what
Yeah,
helped me out a lot because it kind of it makes you it forces you to use a certain framework, and copywriting is simply taking your video scripts or whatever you're doing and putting it into words. And so that could be in product descriptions, that could be in social media posts, it could be in email marketing. but you have that very short window in the very beginning, which is your hook, just like you do in a video, right? You've got like 3 seconds to grab them. So for me, that's like roughly 2 lines.
Mhm.
So I know those first 2 lines, I need to almost like shock them and get their attention and make them stop. And then I can start going into the story and telling the story. And then, you kind of wrap it all up. You give them the moral of the story with a call to action, and you call it a day.
Yeah, that's good. Dang, clip right there.
Yeah, so you do all that and you do it in a way that people can empathize with you. And that's why I pick the stories that I pick. And I'm always watching to see which posts that get the most engagement, which ones get less engagement, because that tells me how to better refine.
Mhm.
Like my best ones are typically really quick, a little bit fiery almost, not vulgar or anything, just like this is what you need to do. Here's the clear steps. Do A, B, and C and go out there and win.
Yep.
Like when I make those posts and they're only like this long, for whatever reason, like this, like 200 and something likes every time.
Huh.
But like you said, if you go into the long drawn out story and it's a page and a half, probably two.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yep.
I mean, it just comes with practice too, but it also helps. Like I said, the more you practice it in your posts, the more you'll get to do it when you're doing other stuff, when you're doing emails. It's the science of persuasion is pretty much the same across the board, whether you're doing it in a video, an email, a post, a product description. You just have to understand a little bit about psychology, and I find that helps a lot.
Mm, that's good. Yeah, I know that you gave me some resources and I like tapped into it a little bit and I'm like, okay, I'm back home. I can do like research more. I'm excited.
I'm curious if you've ever read Tim Grover's books, because I find that you're pretty driven, and like I said, you might not agree with his demeanor or his methods, but I find you might identify with the mindset.
I have not. I know who he is, but I haven't.
Yeah, well, for those that don't know, Tim Grover is the guy that coached like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, and some of the biggest and baddest, you know, real like NBA All Stars from the '90s all the way up to today. He still has a training facility in Chicago where he trains current NBA stars. Some of them might be MLB, but his primary focus is NBA. He's done like basketball, football, baseball, hockey. Yeah, he's trained a lot of athletes.
What 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 book have you read from him that really sat well with you?
I've read both Relentless and Winning.
Mm.
Um, Relentless is more based upon his training with Michael, and Winning he wrote in the wake of Kobe's death, and it
Oh.
was kind of a memoir and a memorial to Kobe in a way.
Mm.
So both are really, really good. I identify with both a lot. I like Relentless a little bit better because in it he tells you like people get mad at him for him not telling them what to think, but he tells them how to think.
Ah,
Right? It's kind of like we see that all the time too. I'm sure you see it. Like, well, Jada, what do I do? It's like you gotta bring me something. Give me a problem. Give me a solution. Like, give me something to work with here, not just what do I do? And throw your hands up.
yeah. And oh my gosh. So like I was saying earlier, those core values and like that mission statement has taken me so like over a year to really like write down. And I was putting a lot of like hope that somebody could just come and tell me like what to write or like how to like think about what to write. And the more that I kept thinking like, okay, well, I just want to like sit down with somebody or sit down with like this person specifically, and like I know that they like have good questions and stuff. Like the more that it wasn't happening, and I kept getting, I think like especially Layla Hormozy, I think, pretty much saying like no one's gonna save you, like no one's gonna be doing
Mhm.
this for you, like, and just that like no one's gonna save you, you're on your own. I'm like, oh my god, I'm on my own, like what am I doing? I'm trying to wait for all these people to like help me. And Well, I do know that people are helping me and I'm very grateful for it. I know that they can't be there all the time and I can't be like depending on somebody else because they have like good questions. Like I need to develop myself to have those questions so that I can ask myself those questions and also be able to answer them. Like, oh my gosh. And it's just so difficult. And that's like going into like the education system and all of that, like growing up now, like they don't teach you how to think. They just teach you what to think and like what to know and with whatever it may be. And I'm like, oh my God, my dad growing up was always, or especially now, like within the last 10 years, he's like, man, it's all about the questions that you ask. And I kind of got it. And now I'm like, oh my God, it's about the questions that you ask.
You want the good news or the bad news?
Bad news.
The bad news is that core values are always evolving.
Oh
The
yeah.
good news is that core values are always evolving. You know what I mean? Like it's one
Yeah.
of those things that's it's very running an organization and having a culture is very fluid, and I'm sure you probably see that because y'all are it's 5 partners now that y'all kind of combine efforts with SubTo Lou and SubTo Drew.
Yeah.
So that's a massive team.
Yeah.
I think somebody told me you'll have like 70 cold callers.
Yeah,
Is
we right now I believe it's about a 50-person team.
right. And running an organization that big and having a culture that stems down, like I had this conversation with one of my JV partners yesterday because he's like, I need to write out the vision, it needs to be clear, and I need everybody to understand what the culture is going to be. And I said, bro, you live the culture first. Like
Yeah.
leading by example is not a way to lead, it's the way to lead. It's the only
Yeah.
way. And I told
Mhm.
him like what you do is you start out with you and your partners. So right now it's 3 of us. It's me, him, and somebody else, and another guy, and we have to live, breathe, and die by that culture. And then like I'm sure as you've built a team before, you add a layer beneath you and you live, breathe, and die that culture with them too until
Mhm.
they do the same and they take it on as their own and they buy into the mission, they buy into the vision, and then you can add another layer beneath that, another layer beneath that, and it's just making those steps as you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was a good way to put it. And like for me, I'm totally cool with things evolving because it's interesting like looking back at what I thought before and like how I've changed now, like just in like beliefs and stuff. But I think for me, the win right there with the like was just that I wrote them down. Like, I finally wrote down, a clear mission, clear vision. And I know that I'm like I was saying earlier, like I don't know, I want to flesh it out a little bit more and like do all these things. But at least like this was the first time that I actually like put it down and I wasn't just like, okay, well, it's like these, or I don't know, I'm waiting on for this person to like help me kind of write it down. It's like, no, I did it. It's me.
Oh, no,
Like,
totally. I guess what are some of the things that y'all do with that? Because I know you and everyone on your team, all your partners, try to act with a certain level of intentionality, and building culture takes a certain level of intentionality.
mhm.
What are some of the more intentional things that y'all do to build that culture?
um, I am like always saying good morning. I think that's at least one thing where I want to at least be that initial, hey, the day's good, or hey, you got this, or I don't know, because I grew up with that. Like my mom would listen to her own videos to start her day off. So for me, I'm like, man, I'm always trying to be as grateful as I can be, especially when I wake up. Like it's gonna be a good day, or it's like it's a great day to have a great day, or like a lot of those things. Because why not have that mentality? And so um that's one thing that I do that's like really small. But other than that, I am trying to be uh I'm trying to do more one-on-ones with people. Not necessarily like it's more of like touching base. Like I want everybody to feel like they matter because they do. Like we're not um a wholesale company or anything. We're a team. We're like it's a part of the operations. Like me, we're all a part of the operations and we're all teammates here. So like if I see somebody that's um kind of starting to I guess slow down a little bit as we're all like kind of going. I want to make sure that I can try to bring them back up to where we're at. So like that's just a really big thing for me. Like I want people to feel like there's individualization and that they matter because they do.
I could totally see you being that ray of sunshine, just telling everybody, like, good morning, good morning.
Yeah. It's funny. For me, I mean, I would just do it just because like our group chat would kind of be dead in the beginning. And I realized that like people don't always like interacting a lot. And so it kind of just started as in like, hey, I was watching this video and it motivated me. So here, I hope it motivates you. And like kind of doing a lot of different things in the morning, but kind of speaking into the void because a lot of people still don't like interacting. But after a while, like, especially when I would meet people in person from my team, they mentioned that. They mentioned, hey, like, so good to see your messages in the mornings. And they're like, I usually see it like as I'm at work and stuff. So I'm like, okay, as long as like somebody says that it's useful at all, I'll keep doing it. Sounds good.
And that goes right back to the point we made like in the very beginning of this, that like SubTo in general is just so supportive. Because even like these Zooms, I was gonna do like one or two or three just until I kind of, because I was like, I mean, who's gonna show up to this? But we had the same people showing up like every single week, and we started getting like a recurring guest list, and people kept asking me for the link, and people kept saying like I was getting the thank you text as soon as we got off, and I was like, all right, like even if I don't feel like it, even if I don't want to do it, even if I'm having one of those moments, I know I still need to show up because it brings value to people.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's how I started feeling with my podcast too. Like, especially I was live streaming them at first, and then it was easier for me to just record them. And and so I'm like, well, if I'm not live streaming, like who's gonna watch it? But I know that my mom watches it. So if anything, she's the person that's gonna get some kind of value. And everybody that I bring on, I think a lot of people have a lot more value than they think. And all of them, my mom calls me up, she's like, oh my god, this was so good, this is my favorite. And then the next one, oh my god, this is so good, this is my favorite. But it's so funny because like we actually have conversations about the conversations that I have with my guests. Just because they have so much, like it may not be real estate that we're talking about a lot, but it's a lot of personal things. And it's a lot of like, there was this one gentleman that's a chiropractor, and he was like we had the most amazing talk about mindset and about just so many things like that, that my mom actually made people like the youth that she works with watch it. She's like, watch the podcast and we're gonna discuss it. But yeah, like that was really cool because I'm like, oh my god, I do bring value.
Lewis Howes also did a really good one that I'll have to send you after this. It's about being, he calls it being a super connector. Um, I think you'll like that one a lot because it talks about like that level of intentionality, like having these conversations, building the culture, and making sure that people are like they're engaged.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's
you know, I had also told you this outside of this recording, same thing. Like I joined the community not that long ago. Like I didn't have any real estate experience. I didn't know what value I brought. I just kept doing things and people were like, yeah, this brings value. And I was like, okay, cool. As long as it brings value to you, like guess what? I'm gonna keep doing it.
yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. It I appreciate people that actually give you the feedback. And um I had somebody ask me this the other day, but so like just in general, if like I like to compliment people, but not necessarily to make them feel good. Like a lot of times if I'm like at the grocery store and maybe the cashier, like I'm like, hey, you have really pretty eyes, or like, oh my god, I love you, like your hair color, or whatever it may be. I'm thinking it, so I just feel like why not say it because it might be nice to hear. Um, so it's not necessarily like I have to compliment them. It's just like, oh, I'm already doing it in my mind, so might as well just say it out loud. But somebody had asked me before, like, why do you compliment people? Or like, why do you do that? And not necessarily to, it's just more of like what makes it, what of the two options that I just said. And and it was just interesting. It was funny to hear it. I'm like, I just like to give, that feedback because I'm already thinking it. And so like what you're saying, like where people give you that feedback already, it's like, okay, that's great. So that I can keep going.
I do that with my touch points. So if it comes to my head, like I should text Jada, I should text Dawn, I should text Grace or Bree, you know, like everybody that's on the Zoom is people I communicate with regularly. So
Mm,
if it comes to my head, it's like, why would you second guess yourself? Because that's what most people do, right? They're like, I should text Adam. Well, I don't know. It's kind of like the middle of the day, or he might be doing something. It's Mother's Day. I'll do it tomorrow. It's too late. Maybe he's in bed. Maybe it's too early. He's not awake yet. It's like, no, dude, text me.
yeah.
Because, hey, first of all, I keep my phone on silent all the time.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, it would blow up. Um, but it's always on vibrate and it's always on my person. So if you send me a text or something, I'll get back to you as soon as I can,
Mhm.
regardless of what that means. It could be it could be one of those things I get back to you in a little bit. It could be one of those things I get back to you,
Later.
tomorrow morning when I wake
Yeah.
up. Like I text somebody up at 4 a.m. this morning, and she's like, "Dude, are you nuts? What are you doing up at 4 a.m. on a Sunday?" I was like, "Well, the dog woke me up, so I took her outside. So I saw you text me, so I text you back."
Yeah. Yeah. That's the way that I try to work as well. But I realized that a lot of other people don't work that way. So I remember, I think it was last year, a couple years ago, I was working with somebody and um I would kind of just message every throughout the day. A lot of times it was questions or like, hey, like I know that like we need to do this. But not necessarily saying like, hey, we need to do this now. But they took it that way. And so they're like, hey, I'm done working for the day. And I'm like, oh, no, that's fine. I'm just saying it because it came to my mind and it needs to be said so that I don't forget it. And even if
Yep.
I were to put it like whatever, like, and so I started trying to say, like, hey, no need to message back or whatever. Like, hey, I'm just saying this as a reminder or whatever. But because if you, I think it's like that 2 minute rule or 10-second rule or something. Like if it takes you like 2 minutes to do, just do it, whether it comes to chores or some work or something. So now I'm like, oh my God, because I get all these like, oh, I should message this person. Oh, I should message. I need to either something that I'm working on, like I need to message these people, or sometimes I get like, I wonder how Adam's doing. Let me message him, like stuff like that. Where I'm like, oh, I should just go on that urge. Like I was already thinking that person. Just quickly text. It's fine.
Right. Like when you wanted the marketing help, you were like, "Hey, what resources do you have?" I was like, "Oh God, what resources do you need?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And I walked over to my bookshelf while I had you on the phone because I had my earbuds in. I was like, all right, so this is a good book. That's a good book. This is a good book. This one's not applicable to marketing, but this is also a good sales book.
Hmm.
And I was like, by the way, because I use, iOS and Mac, I was like, I can text you all this while I'm on the phone with you, which it gives me an extra layer of intentionality because I don't have to wait to get off the phone with you to send you all those messages. I can pull it up on my laptop and just do. All right, here you go, Jada. Done.
Yep.
And that also impresses a lot of people because they're like, wait, you sent that to me? And I'm like, yeah, dude. Like, it's called integrations.
Yeah.
You want to hear something funny though, too, Jada?
Hmm.
Lynn said, I mean, Grace said that her and Lynn are both listening in. So we got another mom and daughter duo hanging out with us. They're both on Grace's account.
Oh, I love it. I love Grace. I haven't had the pleasure to meet Lynn yet, but Grace is, oh my God, incredible. Wow. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you.
I've gotten the chance to talk to both of them, and they're always asking me for the recordings because Lynn usually can make it, but Grace can't always. So who knows? Maybe if we'll get lucky, they'll come off camera or they'll turn the camera on. They'll have some questions for us.
Oh gosh, she's so cute. Ah,
There they are.
There we go. We're not muted anymore. Can you guys hear us?
yes.
Yeah.
All right. What's up? We're road tripping right now. We're in Kansas City, Missouri. No, we're not. No,
we're in
not anymore.
Missouri.
We're in Missouri. We're past Kansas City, but we're headed back. We're
Oh,
like, wait a second, wait a second. We have to hop on the Zoom, but this has been so good. It's so great to see both of you.
So awesome that both of y'all were able to make it. I know y'all have been watching the recordings because y'all will text me in the group chat like, "Oh my God, this one was awesome."
Right? We've met
aw.
incredible people your through your Zooms and like my relationship with Amber McCullough. I owe that to you. And she is amazing. I love her so much. And then, last week, so we were so excited that you were here, Jada.
I receive, I accept.
Y'all got doing her happy dance.
I love your daughter, by the way, Lynn. Grace is absolutely incredible. I'm sure that you know that, but I think it's always a compliment, or like it's a good
I was gonna say props to
reinforcement.
mama, right?
Yeah, like good on you for having such a wonderful daughter, and she's like just doing such big things. It's incredible.
She is. I feel like we're working together, but whether we end up on the same team or not, I can let her fly. It's like, I'm not going to kick her out of the nest. She's already moved away. She's an adult at 20, but I feel like she is so on the right track for having success and happiness and true friends and love and so many great things in her life. So I'm like, oh, my work here is done.
Yeah. Like you've built her up enough. She can definitely, and she seemed like, from what I've gathered whenever we've chatted, she can definitely take care of herself. It's awesome.
But she still needs her mom. I do.
That's me with mine.
Drive. I'll let you guys talk. I'm gonna drive. But nice to see you guys. I love listening to this conversation. It's fabulous.
Yeah,
this was a good one. I didn't mean to keep going, Adam. Keep going.
I was just saying everybody needs a good mom. It sounds like you got one.
I do. Everybody does need a good one, but we jokingly call her the team mom sometimes, the team TEAM, team mom, just because that's just her personality of coming in, encouraging people. She goes, "What do you need? How can I help you?" Definitely. Are you an official connector avatar or not? Well, she kind of steps into that role just naturally in life before we came into SubTo, but she's just, I don't know how many people are on the Zoom. I need to check the participants, but connect with Lynn over here. She's amazing.
Well, like I said too, Grace, it'll live on YouTube, so anybody that watches the recordings knows that they need to connect with Lynn.
Do that.
But too, Grace, like that's one of the reasons that I do it, because I was telling Jada this before on one of our calls, that like the reason that I do a lot of these things is because when I was, Jada's age, and then even when I was your age, like I didn't have these resources. Like I said that in the very beginning of the call. I started my first LLC at 19, and my resources were a bunch of knuckleheads that had no idea what they were doing and books.
Yep.
So, like that's one of the things that motivates me the most. I have a bunch of guys that work in my small business. They're all about 24, 25. And, I look at them like those are my kids, especially since 2 out of the 3 of them, they have kids now. So it's like I have a responsibility not just to them as employees, but to them so they can be good fathers, to them so they can be, good significant others, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
Well, like that's what goes along with building the culture, right? Like that's how we have a good culture in our company. I'm sure that's how Jada and her partners have a good culture on their team. Is they treat it with intentionality. Like Jada was saying that she likes to spend one-on-one time with each person on the team, and that might not be one-on-one time with every person every day, but it's like scheduling it with intentionality and following up with them on a routine basis.
It's powerful.
I think Jada's just at a loss for words on that one.
I am. I'm like thinking about like a lot of different things. One of them mainly is just like the Mother's Day, and I love how close you are with your mom, because that's how I kind of am with my mom. And if she didn't have the nonprofit, we would definitely be you guys, essentially. Like she would be my partner in SubTo, doing whatever we do, because one, she loves real estate, and two, we work very well together, and she's a huge visionary, and I grew up with her, so I understand how to be the integrator to her visionary, and I just love it. Like it's really gratifying. I don't know why, but to see other people when they're close with their parents. And I'm very close with both of my parents, with my mom and my dad, and we have a lot of really, really good and deep discussions. And by deep I mean like just I don't know, just not shallow. Like we don't just talk about the weather or oh, how was your day at school? Oh, it's good. Like we would have a lot of like deeper chats, like, oh yeah, so this happened, and then I'm not too sure why I felt like this or whatever it may be, and then like we go into stuff like that, and then we go into like personal development things like I was saying, or kind of going into like you should always be bettering yourself, and maybe what are the things that you could do to better yourself, and should you be a more well-rounded person or like more specialized, and maybe we've gone into like should you aim to be happy or should you aim to be joyful, and it's like okay, well what's the difference between that, and like it's just a lot of stuff like that, and I think that's very needed, especially where I live right now, and like with doing the whole nonprofit. Like I had mentioned earlier, we're very focused on kind of guiding the youth in the community as much as we can, and talking to a lot of these kids, and even people I guess that are like my age, because it's like 14 through 24 year olds. But it's just crazy to see and realize how many people don't have that, and it's not for was it lack of trying, it's just that a lot of cultures don't push that, like they don't push people to really talk to each other, and they don't push people to like be a family in the sense of like you want to like each other too, you don't want to just like love each other. So it's nice, like it really motivates me to help as many people as I can, because maybe they can't have that relationship with their parents, but maybe when they have kids they can already be in a good enough mindset to try to build that with them. Go team, you guys go.
Well, Grace, you're shouting out Mama over there. Did you find your avatar? Can I find your spot?
I did. We're kind of going through the middle of nowhere, so if I lose connection, I apologize. But I would love to step into connector role as well. I just love meeting people, and actually, I do want to hop off the second of what Jada was saying. Hop on that train, because I also love it when I find different teams in there of people working together. I see husbands and wives inside SubTo. I know, what the pickles inside John and Justin pick out, like pickle, seeing the two of them work together, but just like these power teams, and just knowing that they stand outside of culture. And I know even growing up, there's almost a temptation where it's almost cool not to like your family, or almost cool to speak ill against your parents, or like, oh, my mom's so annoying, oh, my dad's always breathing down my neck. Like it's almost like cool to not be a team until you get older, where it's like, okay, it's actually interesting to sit down at the dinner table. And those were always my favorite types of conversations, of like, yeah, like not shallow. I mean, Jada, exactly, you hit it right on. I love it too. But going back to Avatar, so working with Justin's team, I do not want to butcher his last name. Tumanowski. Thank you, Justin Tumanowski's team. Nice. I'm on Dispo, Moms on Acquisitions. And so I've just kind of, she just got her first deal, so she's very, very excited about that. I've loved working back in the acquisition, or excuse me, the Dispo team, and kind of works with my personality of kind of having like a half and half brain of being a visionary, but also being an integrator of like, okay, yes, we get to be on the spreadsheets. Yes, we can manage all these wonderful things, but then still having an insight. I'm like, oh, what if we do this? Like stepping into the creative brain on, this is our exit strategy. This is what we can do with this. But to make a very long story, or like a short story long, my avatar is being a direct to agent visionary. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, it's been a long week of traveling. Direct to seller, visionary, and connectors. That has been my avatar right now.
I love that. And it sounds like you're like me, because I'm a little bit of both, not because I wanted to be, but because I had to be, right? When I had a small business, like I didn't have anybody else, so I had to do both. And I found I actually enjoy the integrator work more.
Ha, that's awesome. I'm really glad that you found that as well. And he is a great guy. Like I love Justin. Everybody loves Justin. One day I will get one of the like shirts or sweaters that he makes, because he's like the merch guy. I'm like, damn, they're always so cool. I want it.
And Grace, technically that's how Jada and I initially connected, was the Muds were looking for a Dispo person.
Yeah. If you ever need pointers too, I would love to help. We have dispo guys that definitely didn't know a lot about dispo, and we're like building them up so that they're, dude, one guy on his first day, we had just given him some tips and he already had a buyer. We're like, damn, this guy's good. So I'll teach you.
Yeah, and if you need help in a connector role, you know how to get me.
I'm definitely going to follow up on that. Thank you so much. Absolutely.
Yay. And I'm going to try to be, I'm going to emulate more of you, Adam. And just mess people as soon as possible. I used to be like that. I think, I forgot what it was, but I'm pretty sure, like when I probably before real estate, but I was really big on like just messaging. Like, I don't know. I like it when people message me as soon as they get something. So it's like, oh, if I can do the same, that's great. But also no hard feelings if you just can't. And I forgot who, but somebody had said like, hey, maybe wait on messaging people back. Like not to play that game of like, hard to reach, but like maybe it's not a good thing to instantly message people back. Like maybe like go back to the 1990s where, people weren't so easy to get in a hold of, and I don't know. And so I think I had kind of had that in the back of my mind, and it comes back every so often where I'm like, oh, maybe it's okay. Like maybe work-life balance. And I'm like, screw work-life balance. Just whatever I can do something, I'm just gonna do it. It's fine.
Yeah, I definitely think you should err on that side. And my caveat would be unless, right? Like, unless they're a time suck or unless they're like an energy vampire or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe wait. Because Jill Jensen and I talked about that too. Like, she's like, oh, I think it's super smart you message people back late at night because then they don't message you back right away. And it's like, well, that's not why I do it. I do it because it took me forever to get back to them.
Yeah.
However, that's not a bad strategy.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's funny. That's a good. I like that it's definitely wasn't your intention, but like you're saying, it's a good strategy. So if you know that somebody like usually talks a lot or like just like kind of maybe energy vampire, even if they're not trying to be, it's like, yeah, maybe try to see about messaging them when the time is right for you.
Yeah, my thing is I just can't stand the excuses. So if people give me excuses, I'm just like, bro, I won't message you back at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. that's
I can't stand that. It's like if you come to me with a problem and I give you a solution and then you come back to me with the same problem, that means you didn't take the advice. And if you didn't take the advice, you're not willing to help yourself.
That's true. Yeah. I definitely I'm trying to be like the core values, honesty is number one. I've been trying to be more on top of that as well, so like trying not to give excuses or not even like no white lies or anything, just like, dude, I'm so sorry. I got like, because there have been times where my friends reach out to me and we have like a small conversation, and for me I want to give more in-depth responses and like thoughtful responses, but then sometimes that means that I want to sit down for a couple minutes more than I can. And then I don't message them for like a couple days. And then after a while, after like 3 days, I'm like, oh my God, I'm just getting back to you. I'm so sorry. Like literally, and it's not to say these are like, it's interesting. I try to let them know, hey, I don't mean any disrespect. I'm so sorry. And this is why I didn't respond. I wanted to give a thoughtful message, and then I just didn't like make the time, essentially. Not that I didn't have the time, because I do have the time. Like I have 5 minutes to read something or whatever. Like I have the nighttime before I go to sleep. I just wasn't. I was just like, I need to sleep or I need to do this.
Well, it's also hard to do at scale, right? Like one of my best friends is in Illinois right now for his master's, and he called me up today. And then my JV partner called me while I was on the phone with him. And that's never a quick thing. Like I love my JV partners. I love all of them and I love to talk to them and connect with them. But what I thought was going to be a quick call, I didn't get to call him back right away. So what I'm going to do is after this call, I'm going to take the dog for a walk again because she goes out twice a day and I'll call him back, but like you said, it's just having that level of honesty, setting and managing the expectations, the boundaries. right? Like, I also don't need you calling me at 10:30 at night. I had to set those boundaries with more than one person.
Wow. That's crazy that somebody would call that late. Like, oh my God.
Nah, dude, you remember? So there was a deal I was working. It was the first connector deal I got brought, and not only both the borrower and the lender were doing it, and they were both like butting heads outside of the communication channel that I established.
Mhm.
And after talking to Colin Yep, he was like, I consider that circumvention. Like, if you don't go through me and my communication channel, that's circumventing.
Yeah.
Even if you're not trying to cut my fee out, because that's how miscommunication happens.
Mhm.
And they started calling each other names. I worked on it for a month. The whole deal fell out of escrow. I never got paid.
Wow. For all that work that you're doing.
Yeah, it took me 3 weeks. Took me
Dang.
3 weeks, a lot of work. I found a lender for 70K and a lender for the 15 gap. And like I said, they ended up acting like children. They were nitpicking the contract, and it goes back to, like I said, I don't like to manhandle people, but I will. I'm
Mhm.
not afraid to hurt your feelings.
Mhm.
And at one point, they were using me as the intermediary, because they don't mind doing that when it's negotiations. However, they didn't want to do that for regular just communication and updates.
Mhm.
So I'm sitting here negotiating terms for both of them, and I finally said, "All right, I have had enough." I said, "You sit down and you shut up. You sit down and you shut up. Y'all send the paperwork and sign it. We're done. No more."
Yeah.
And sometimes that's how you have to be.
Dang. That's cool. I yeah, that is like circumvention because like you're just saying miscommunications happen and how are you supposed to know if they're not communicating in that channel?
Well, I ended up knowing because they were both sending me screenshots of them calling each other names and nobody accepting responsibility. And the deal didn't close on time, so the lender was upset about that. The borrower didn't tell them about a solar lien they were trying to get removed. The lender was pointing fingers at the TC. It was just like, it was one thing after another. But like I said, I did my jobs. But yeah, I ended up terminating both those JVs.
Dang.
Well,
Ooh.
it goes back to, like we said, if you don't live up to the core values, like, why would I want to work with you?
Yeah, that's definitely true actually.
Like I said, if I had a deal in Houston, I'm more than willing. I know I could send a JV to Jada. She's going to help me out, and we're going to communicate effectively, and we're going to be on it. Because I'm like you. If I think of something, I'll text it to you, and I will usually state, or people will ask, and I tell them that, like, if it's unclear, ask. Like, this
Mhm.
doesn't have to be done right now. I just need to get it off my mind, so that way it does get done eventually.
Mhm. Oh, thank you, Grace. Thank you, Grace and Lynn. It was very nice to chat with you guys. Woo-hoo.
Dawn and Bree, I'm calling you both out because y'all like to talk. Y'all like to talk to me. I know y'all got questions.
Do people usually ask
Yeah, sorry
questions?
guys. I was just listening to you guys chat away. I did have a question. I know that she's probably gone now. She has a dead zone, but Grace, what was it that she said she was an integrator direct?
Grace is a DTS integrator and a connector, I think. Right, Jada?
Yeah, I believe so. She'll type it in the chat because she's
Yeah.
still here.
So I think it's cool that we're all kind of on the same page connecting people. So I have been doing investing for a couple of years. I've was in another group prior to this one. And I've just met so many people and I've always tried to be the helper and connect people with other people. And then I had watched a video with Pace saying, y'all should be getting paid for that. And I'm like, I just do it just to be nice. And then I'm like, all right, well, maybe I need to like look into the Avatar series. And, Adam and I had a discussion where my MSA was like, oh, make sure you watch all the videos. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go through 6 weeks of videos and I'm still not going to know what my avatar is. So he's like, skip it. Just go to the avatar, check out your avatar. And so in doing that, I was like, yeah, I'm for sure a connector. So, I mean, I joined because I want to do capital raise. So I'm like, well, you know, we always grow into where we want to be, right? So for now, I know I can be a connector very well. So that's the space I'm kind of staying in as I grow and learn more. So it's just cool that this, and like you had said, Jada, earlier, which I thought you said so perfectly, it's not a mentorship, it's a community. And it really is because when I joined, I was like, I'm going to learn all the things. And then you watch one of, you know, Pace's videos and it's like 2.5 hours long of kind of chit chat and talk about his deals and stuff. And you get like 5-10 minutes of a little nugget. But I feel like I've learned so much more from just connecting with you guys. So that's what it's all about, is the community and learning from each other, which is amazing. I absolutely love this community. And I was telling Adam the other night, like I've already had like 3 or 4 different people join SubTo from my other mentorship because I just talk about it so much and they're like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, let's join. You go. And they
You can
have,
also be
they
getting paid
absolutely
on
love
that,
it.
by the way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I have, which is nice because whatever I get, they get as well, which is awesome. So at the time when it was $1,000, you know, I was not only getting 1,000, but they were getting $1,000 off, which, I mean, to join, it's cheap enough already.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when I had joined, I was like, well, this is a SubTo community, creative financing, right? Can we creatively finance this program? And so we did. And then when I talked to Adam, you know, he was saying his deal, and I'm like, oh man, I thought I was all cool being different. And, you know, I thought I got one over on everybody. But yeah, so I tell other people too, because, you know, they're from another mentorship. They already spent like 20 grand. So when I tell them, you know, how cheap it is to join here, I'm like, oh, just, you know, let them know. And you can probably slice it up in like 4 or 5, you know, payments and be
Yeah,
good.
they did mine in 12.
Huh?
They did my payments in 12.
What?
So
Mine
gross.
was in 7.
Oh,
my
okay.
God.
I only had 3. I thought I was pushing it, right? And then when Adam,
It's
like, I didn't want to call you
salesman's gotta
out
work the
and
salesman.
say what you said to me, so I kind of just left it at it was a creative finance for you. But yeah, when you ever told me that, I was like, oh man, I could have done better.
That's so good. 12 months. I joined in 2021.
Pay more than
And you're like, I'm still paying for it. No.
yeah, I paid more than the 9,800 technically because
Yeah.
they did break it up over so
Right.
long. It ends up being probably about 11, but for me
Yeah.
that was what worked the best. And I told the guys like I can't join otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so great too, because it's like, I know mentorships or coaching programs that you have to renew. And like she said,
Every
they're like
year.
20,000, 40,000, like, you know, yeah, they're expensive. And for this to get what you get and just have lifetime access and everything is like, oh my God, it's so good.
It's good, but I will say for sure it's different because if it's a mentorship, right, you're getting coached and you're
Yeah.
watching you know, your coach teach you different strategies. Here, I feel like I watch a lot of videos, but I get more of the meat in the chat in the Facebook and just talking to people and asking those questions. And so not only does it help you learn, but it helps you also to connect with other people. So I love it.
Yeah, Jada, like Dawn and I just set up, we're gonna have a weekly meeting now. So that's one of the other projects that we're working on.
Nice. Oh, that's so cool. Yay.
Yeah.
And she'll be my co-host next Sunday after you.
Yeah, so make sure you join.
I'll do my best. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dawn's a credit stacking expert on top of many other things.
Say that one more time.
She's a credit stacking expert on top of many other things.
Ooh, man.
And I love talking about it too. It's I feel like it's a good fit for me because I get so excited when I talk about it and people don't realize like how much money they have sitting in their wallets.
Mhm.
So we'll talk more about that next week. But
That is fun. Oh my gosh, I'm excited. Woo!
it'll be good.
Grace just said that Lynn will be there to watch you, Dawn.
Nice.
But it also goes back to too, Jada, like I was saying, like Dawn will reach out and text me, and I text her back, right? Like she reaches out to me with intention, so when I think of something, I call her.
Mhm.
You know, if I have a credit question, that's the first call I make.
Mhm. Dang.
So it
That's the
goes.
community aspect of it. Like where it's like, okay, get it out of my mind that this is a mentorship because it's a community. Yeah, like what you were saying, Don. Not a bunch of coaches and stuff like really hands on. This is what you got to do. A lot of people really, building the relationships. Or Pace is just a talker and talks forever. But yeah, you're reaching out to the people in the chat. You're reaching out to people in the Facebook group to make all of these little connections. So that's what you do in a community. That's what you do wherever you go. You want to be like networking essentially.
And I kind of feel like it almost forces people to build a team, right?
Yeah.
And because so many people, I talk at the other mentorship, I'm like, oh, who's your team, who's your partner? Because I had through the mentorship I started a Facebook group. It's all women, this mentorship. So of course it was all women for this group that I started, but it's all built on partnerships because I noticed a lot of them, they're all trying to do it on their own. Like they're trying to be the dispo manager, the acquisitions manager, the in-between, like the TC, like all the things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you guys scale? There's no way. There's
Yeah.
no way. Unless you're just not sleeping.
Yeah.
I think that's my favorite part about the community is that it's so free flowing. There is no one track. There is no coach in your face. There is nobody telling you have to do wholesale. You have to be one of these things on a wholesale team. I tell everyone it's not just creative finance, it's creative income. Like you can do
Mhm.
whatever you want. And like I've told both of you privately, I had experience in all of the different activities kind of across the avatars, which allowed me to pick one, take it, run with it, and I end up having to shake people actually at Squad Up Summit literally. Like, just listen. Stop trying to do all the things. Quit chasing the shiny objects. Quit trying to like hold on to because you're holding on to your pride at that point. You're sitting here like all scared. You're like, "Oh, I can't partner with anybody. What if it goes wrong?" It's like, "Well, it probably will, but
Mhm.
that's okay."
Yeah.
I had plenty of bad partnerships before. Like, you just find the people that are your ride or dies, and those are the people you do shit with.
Mhm.
But I think too, a lot of it is, I mean, I don't want to pick on the women, right? But it is a women's mentorship. And I feel like a lot of them have had relationships gone bad, right? And so they're just kind of jaded and trusting people in general. And then you go into SubTo and you have someone like Adam who's like, telling everybody work on your mindset. And it's so true. It's so
Mhm.
true. And then you also have like the older, so in that group, not to say that they're all older, but you've got the older women. I'm one of them that you just, you learn a certain way and also you're brought up in a different way. Like
Yeah.
my parents, we were brought up to work your whole life and save and get that 401k, so it's a different mindset shift that you have to make. Otherwise, you're always going to be scared. You're always going to be like, okay, I know the things, but I'm not going to do it. So I'm just going to go learn something else and maybe I'll do that. So then you become a gator and then you become this and then you become that and you're still like not making money because you're afraid to do anything.
Mhm.
So I think that joining this community as well, it helps a lot of people with their mindset. 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think mindset is like a really big, huge thing for a lot of people. Most people.
Yeah, like you said, they need somebody like me to literally shake them.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I love how because conversations they all kind of go back to like when you first start talking and stuff, like what you were saying about how it's all about mindset, how I'm like, I didn't realize that this community would teach me so much about like personal development, aka mindset. Like a lot, I think everything is mindset. Like everything that you do, you know, a lot of people, I think Cody Sanchez, I just watched like a short from her saying, your mind will quit before your body does. So that's really interesting because people could be, you know, doing marathons and stuff, and then they'll just be like, I'm done. And as long as you don't stop, you will keep going until like you really like you could break your ankles or whatever. But like, yeah, a lot of people can really keep going and they just don't realize it. And that's just something that they have to like, it's like an endurance of the mind, and like you build that up.
I forget
Yeah.
who said it, but somebody brought up that like a lot of people die at 27 and they're buried at 72 because they let all their hopes, all their dreams, all their ambitions, and all that die with them. And I've cheated death too many times to allow that to happen.
I
Like,
think people just get in a place where they don't know what to do. They don't have time to think because, you know, they even either have babies or, you know, they have a house or apartment they can't afford and they don't have time to think of, you know, what can I do to change this?
Yeah, that's
that's also
crazy too. Oh, go ahead.
that's also why I get frustrated with the community when they take down. I'll post a poster in there and they're like, "Oh, this is self promotion. We can't vet the information that's in there." And it's like, if they would have listened to this call, they'd have seen that we didn't talk about real estate hardly at all.
Yeah,
It's
I think
because
you can. I don't think you can like post it, but I know you can make it event. So at least you can kind of do that.
well, we were able to post it up to a certain point because I did the first 3 episodes with no issues. Like,
Mhm.
hey, Emma Duncan's gonna be my guest this week, and then right before Squad Up Summit, they gave me a hard time about it, and then right after Squad Up Summit, it was like, poster goes up, it's down in 8 minutes.
Mhm.
Even when the most vague, nondescript, like this is, hey, if you're interested at all in anything I have to say, you know what to do. They still were like yank.
Yeah, which makes sense. But it's like, aha.
But that's okay because, like I said, now we got the CRM, and I purposely texted Dawn because Dawn's like, "Oh, I'll be there," and I was like, "Hey, you did get the text from the other number, right?" She's like, "Yeah, it worked, so we know it works."
Yay.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on now because, you know, with my business, I have the CRM and like I mentioned before, you know, having all those connections from the mentorship, you know, their emails and everything else and I know who's a private money lender. I know who is actively buying and I have like this real long list and I'm like I need to start plugging all that stuff into my CRM. So working on
Well,
doing that.
I can let you use mine too if you need to.
Use your CRM.
Mhm. Yeah, I have an open Dispo account because I'm really good friends with Rick.
Nice. Well, thank you.
At this point, all my JV partners have staff accounts on my thing because I have my hands in so many different projects. And I guess Dawn, you and I can save that for next week. We'll tease it for now because we still have some more details to flesh out. But I've got a capital raising team, an integrator team, and a multifamily team all hosted on there.
Very
And
cool.
Yeah, I'd love to look and see the inside of it, only just to kind of learn more. I'm, you know, the older school with the Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah,
So
that's how I do everything
CRM is
right
so
now.
new to me. Yeah. So I'm learning it. I would only look at it. I wouldn't touch it because I'd be afraid I'd delete everything on you.
it's not that bad. I'll give you a staff account. You can look on the inside. You can kind of poke your head around and you can see how it works.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
crazy. I have everything in there. I have a bunch of email templates already done. I have links in there. I have everything.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
I don't know how to send them. Yeah.
Well, bring all that to our meeting on Wednesday and I'll see if I can help you set some of that up.
I do have somebody that is going to be helping me this week, but I take all the help I can get.
Fair enough. All right, guys. I think on that note, we're getting close to the top of the hour. You all know the drill by this point. This is episode 8. So if this has brought you any kind of value, if it's made you think, if it's made you laugh, if it's made you smile, please tell a friend. That is the only thing that we ask, is that you bring a friend. If we would get one friend for every episode, we can grow this and we can make a movement out of it. So on that note, Jada, I appreciate you. I'm very glad you came to host. Any final remarks?
It's all about the mindset. Yeah, work on your mindset, work on your perspective, and I think things will work out very well.
I love it. And on that note, guys, we're out.
Thanks,
Peace.
Adam. Thank you, Jada. It was nice talking with you.
You
Thanks,
as
Dawn.
well, Donna.
Bye, guys.
Bye.